Welcome to A Dark Figure Ahead, where we share spooky stories from around the world of spookiness and the stories within. Lots of spookiness. I'm one of your spooky hosts, Dali Dimovski. Joining me around the campfire, the one, the only JJ Holder.
Hello.
JJ,
Your co-ghost host.
Oh, I like that. Co-ghost host. And joining us for the first time, let me turn down the campfire here for a second. Tessa, how are you, Tessa?
Hello. I'm pretty
Tessa.
good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the campfire.
Thank you.
Here is the campfire. Okay, now I've panned the camera back to the campfire. Look at that. We're already getting a lot of comments. A lot of folks are there must be voices from the woods, because I don't see a lot of folks. I'm gonna take these comments and get them out of the way for a little bit, because otherwise they're just burning into the fire. Just scrolls thrown into the fire.
Maybe one or two of them deserve it.
Yeah, JJ, you're so close to the fire, your beard's gonna burn. Apparently,
Well, that's why it's so much shorter now.
That's true. There you go. Oh yeah, looks good. Look good. Hopefully you can stay warm. I got myself some hot cocoa for the fire.
I have some apple spice tea in my face mug.
Nice.
I just have a Diet Coke with lime.
That's what we always bring to campfires. Hey, well, it's the spooky season, and I said let's get around the campfire and let's tell some spooky stories. And I think there are some good ones, and I know I have a good one. I know you might have a good one, JJ, and Tessa, you might also have a good one. So I'm very curious to hear some spooky stories. And who would like to go first with a spooky story?
How about you go first?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how about you, big man?
We are around the campfire, and the story I'm going to tell you, please don't get too spooked. The story I'm going to tell you does involve fires. Okay, children, make sure you're bundled up. Make sure you've got the s'mores going, because lo and behold, it's time to tell the story of the Nain Rouge. Nain Rouge is a local Detroit-based, I don't want to say cryptid, but it is definitely a legend that we like to have around these parts, that tell the tale of a creature that, well, more or less leads to some tragedy. And let me start by introducing you to Antoine de la Motte Cadillac. He was a French cartographer, merchant, and explorer. He was also very arrogant and a liar. Created a noble lineage for himself back in the late 1600s. He lied about his background. He even created a coat of arms, which you can find on the Cadillac vehicle as their emblem today. He rose up the ranks of the French political importance, eventually being placed at the head of small forts and trading posts in the French Americas, which at the time included parts of Canada, parts of the U.S., even far down as Mexico. And he amassed a small fortune. He loved to show off his wealth, loved it. Took any and every opportunity to say, look at me, look at my adornments, and can I get more? Now, this pompous arrogance would get him into trouble. You see, there was a coveted location in the Straits of the lower Michigan Peninsula that was deemed perfect for colonization. It was midway between the French upper colonies and the English expansion coming from the east. And it was said that whomever took control of this point would in effect control the rest of the New World. Cadillac had wanted to settle in this spot, but always faced internal resistance. You see, the local Erie tribes had called this area their home for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, and were reluctant to give it away to the Europeans. Several attempts by the Europeans had been made to barter for the land. The tribes would not have it. Instead, they erected an idol of the offspring of their stone god. They painted him red as a deterrent. They wanted to scare away the Europeans and to say, this is the only person we would barter with. The French were incensed at being turned away. So they called in 2 missionary priests to bless an axe and destroy the idol. The Erie, angry at the disrespect, warned that anyone who would take this land would fall under a curse. Our tale starts some 30 years later when Cadillac, who was at a party in Quebec, was indulging in a lot of wine. He was aiming to be the life of the event, socializing, bragging, flirting with the maids and servants, and even the wives of different noblemen that were there. Cadillac wasn't just surrounded by his trade partners and the politicians at the party, he was also surrounded by his rivals, folks who wanted to also take control of the different ports and the trade routes. In an effort to show off and assert his manliness, he would take on anyone's call. He wanted to be as loud and boisterous, as physical and manly as possible. To prove that he was the master of his fortunes, he wouldn't say no to any provocation. Few rounds of drinks, few small tussles, some arm wrestling, some punches, some wrestling in the pits, in the yards. Story goes that one of his rivals decided to challenge him not to a fight, but to a fortune reading. You see, Cadillac's physical prowess was one thing. He was a sturdy man, stocky. But his mental prowess was another. He had an ego. And his ego took on the charge, and he sat with the fortune teller. He thought, my brain is as big as my muscles. Nobody can get one over on me. The fortune teller leaned in and said, on your next trek, you will meet a horrible monster at midnight. You must appease and flatter him as being your greater. And with his luck, you will find a city to rival Paris. But if you shun him, then he will curse you, and misfortune will fall upon you wherever you go. With each piece of gold you gain, your affliction will grow double. Sounds kind of scary, right? Except to Cadillac. He took that not as a warning, but as a challenge. He heard greater than Paris, fortune, gold coin. Time to go. The next morning, he set off along the coast of the Great Lakes with 100 settlers towards Michigan. He saw this moment as the perfect opportunity to assert his public image. After all, if he were to meet this beast, then he was sure to charm him, and he'd surely acquire even more riches. Upon his arrival to this destination, this point that everybody so coveted, he founded Fort Pontchartrain du Detroit, or what today we would be known as Detroit. Over a few years, Detroit became a successful hub of the fur and lumber trade. As the town grew, Cadillac became well known across America, wealthier and more privileged, and his political stock began to rise. He wasn't just the talk of the town, he was next in line to take more charge around the country. And he would wake up every morning and look at all of his treasures and riches, and his ego would grow even more. One night, as Cadillac was perusing around the city, He had left another party, took his cane, took his lantern, was walking home. He noticed a man crouched next to a tavern. Now, public intoxication was deemed very, very wrong, illegal in the Americas at that time. From Salem to the Southwest to the Southeast, being drunk was a bad thing, especially in public. So, thinking it was a drunkard, he approached the man and berated him. "Go home, fool," he yelled, "or I will send you to prison." The drunkard was unmoved, just smiled from the shadows. Cadillac stepped closer, and as the light from his lamp finally caught the man, he saw that it wasn't a drunkard at all. It was a creature, red and horned, mouth filled with sharp teeth, saliva dripping, hair all over his body. Short in height, but more than making up for that in ghastliness. Cadillac suddenly remembered the fortune he was told all that time ago. But having already collected notoriety and wealth, he no longer needed the luck of the beast, and he wanted to assert himself as being the master of his domain. He took his cane and began to whack the monster across the head. "Begone, Nain Rouge!" The creature smiled, unnerved by being called a red dwarf in French. "Begone, beast! You are nothing! You are no man! You are a monster!" Cadillac continued to hit the creature for what seemed like hours and hours, until the sun began to come up. With the morning light now shining on the street in front of him, the Nain Rouge was mysteriously gone. All that remained in its place was a small broken barrel, his bloody hands, and his shattered cane. Cadillac, thinking this was nothing, this was just somebody playing tricks on me, and left a wine barrel on the road, continued home. However, within a year, tragedies regularly began to befall the city of Detroit. A massive fire in 1703 burned down several buildings, including the chapel and the paperwork that Cadillac had been keeping to preserve his trade and his fortune. Now, you can already tell that maybe good luck and bad luck did have something to do with this strange man. In 1763, the creature was seen just prior to the Battle of Bloody Run, where 58 British soldiers were killed by the Native Americans. And it's said that the river water turned red with blood for days as the Nain danced among the corpses. During the War of 1812, over 100 years after the founding of the city, the Nain Rouge returned again, causing the Americans to relinquish the city to the British for well over a year. Utility workers were said to have seen a small red man just days before the infamous 1967 riots in the city, sending the city spiraling into decay for many years after. And others saw a similar creature just before the worst snowstorm ever to hit this area in 1976, just as the oil crisis ravaged the automotive industry locally. He was also thought to arrive every year on the night before Halloween to cause fires in the city, which would eventually be known locally as Devil's Night. It is said the creature returns whenever men cause great disrespect, whether to each other or to the land here. For years, Detroiters, we organized marches to drive out the Nain Rouge in hopes to turn our fortunes around. But in the early 2010s, those marches started becoming a celebration of the creature, with revelers welcoming its return. Why be afraid of the Nain Rouge? Why tell them that they're below us when the point was to treat them as equals? Maybe it'll work this time. As for Cadillac, well, after Detroit burned down, he was thrown in prison for fraud, for lying about his accomplishments and the city's wealth. He was eventually released and sent south to Illinois, to Missouri, to Louisiana, governing each of them, and being arrested at every fort that he was put in charge of. He was finally kicked out of the Americas, took his family and his wealth, and what remained of it, back to France, where he had to give it all up to pay his debts and the debts of his family. It is said he died in his 70s, in his sleep, in his paternal home, around midnight. The Nain Rouge. And to just give you an idea of what this creature may have looked like, I scoured the internet, and unfortunately there were no photographs around at the time. However, there are drawings. Imagine that. There are some drawings that we might be able to come across. Let me show you our good friend Antoine du Pontchartrain. And there he is, good-looking fella. Don't burn in the fire, Antoine. Don't burn in the fire.
Detroit had enough of that.
Detroit had enough of fires. There he is again, looking assertive, pompous. He's got the scarf. He's got the hair. He's got the mustache. But he didn't come across this little dude.
Oh, Lord.
Until too late. And look at this guy.
This feels offensive.
Listen. This is what I look like when I don't shave in the mornings and after a really bad night of partying. We do celebrate locally. This is a cuter version. This is beer. Detroit Dwarf.
5.6%.
5.6. This is one of the many pieces of art.
I like this one.
Yeah, this is very cool. And of course, there's this one where, almost looks a little racist.
Yeah, I was about to say this one.
Yeah. But this is Detroit.
Oh, hell yeah.
We do celebrate every year.
What
and we have the Marche du Nain Rouge.
This guy is
Nain
a
Rouge.
war. That's it.
Yes. And people do have a lot of fun around our city.
I do like
celebrating the Nain Rouge.
I do like that the bulk of his story is, man, F this one guy in particular.
Yeah, really went after Antoine
One guy.
Cadillac. It's interesting, we could not find, we historians, nobody could find any historical record of the Nain Rouge prior to the 1880s. There really wasn't nothing written down until around 1883-84, when a book was published about many of the legends and mysteries in the Detroit area, in Michigan, and the Nain Rouge was front and center, and it lined up with a lot of sort of the vocal stories that we had been passed down, not only from the Europeans that arrived, but also from the indigenous folks that lived here. These stories have sort of come down and they've intertwined and they've become almost whimsical, but a part of the culture of the area, because our local soccer team is named Le Rouge after the Nain Rouge.
Hell yeah.
And we now celebrate this little guy in hoping that he will bring us good luck instead of bad luck.
That's so cute. I like
It
that.
is the Nain Rouge.
I didn't realize that there's so much French influence up there.
Very much up here. Yes, being so close to Canada, so close. It is amazing. I mean, I just came back from Boston, and in a future episode, I'll talk about Salem and the things there. But it is kind of cool to see how different cultures mix together, and how pompous and egotistical we all were for so long, and what led to little red beasts to come after us. So, who wants to go next around the fire?
I can go.
Oh, there you go.
All
Okay.
right. No, you can go. If
Ladies
you're
first.
comfortable. Let's go. Oh,
Mine's pretty short, and also very local to me. I had a book called North Carolina Folklore.
Mm.
And I was looking through it for something to share. And some of it was so local, it was roads near me. And I was like, no, thank you.
No?
So I'm going to talk about something a little still in my area, but not like next door. And that is the Brown Mountain Lights. And originally I said I wasn't going to do it because around here it's kind of played, but Dolly has never heard of it. So I was like, okay, I guess it's not that played. I have images too. And not very exciting ones, but I've always been super into Halloween.
Aw.
So I'm really excited to be on the podcast tonight, and thanks for inviting me. But now
You mean around the campfire? You mean around the campfire?
The
Yes,
campfire,
yeah.
that one. We're in the woods.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Absolutely. And it's not dark and scary at all.
Not at all. Mm-mm.
But we're going to go back in time to 1981 when my dad looked like this.
Yeah. It's a hot
and
car
had a
right
really,
there.
yeah. He was a senior in high school. And around here we have something called the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is so I guess no one knows, but I'm from Western North Carolina, so that's like the mountains, not the flat part where the beach. We're up in the mountains. And we have the Blue Ridge Parkway, which was a public works project, and it is a scenic drive through the mountains. It goes up to Virginia and then ends down in Cherokee. And it's basically just really beautiful views. 1 million people are here in the fall and summer, and we hate every single one of them. But it's a really nice drive. And if you're local, you know that when you're a teenager, the Parkway is the best place to drive up in the middle of the night and get high and do debaucherous things, which is what my dad loved to do before he was married and before he had me. And there's a place up on the Parkway. Actually, you can see them in 2 spots. The first one is Wiseman's View, which is for flatlanders. An overlook is where you're on top of a mountain and you can look down at a view. So there's Wiseman's View, and then there's the actual Brown Mountain Lights overlook. And my dad would tell me about them, and I never really thought much about it because, like I said, he was up there doing debaucherous things like smoking weed and drinking. But down in the valley, you're looking over, I don't really know the name of the gorge, but it's Pisgah National Forest, and it might be Linville Gorge, I'm not sure. But you can see these lights, and you can either see them up in the sky around the horizon, or you can see them floating around in the woods. Excuse me. And my dad had seen them a couple of times, and he was like, I don't really think it was anything. I was smoking weed. And he's like, so it might not have been anything.
Right?
And then in elementary school, they want to teach us like local culture and history and everything. And they told us about the Brown Mountain Lights. And there are several theories about what they could be. And one of them is a fateful servant looking for their master down there. And we're also in historic ancestral Cherokee lands. So Cherokee ghosts. But a popular theory is actually UFOs. So in 1999, the X-Files actually did an episode on the Brown Mountain Lights. JJ's probably seen it. And I don't remember a lot about the episode, even though I watched it less than 5 years ago, because I was too busy being mad that it actually wasn't filmed here. But yeah, so flash forward from 1981 when my dad saw them to just after Christmas 2019. So Tyler and I were together. Wow. I was very cool back then. I didn't have a child. I could actually go places. And I was driving a 1994 red Subaru hatchback, and it had a tape deck. And I was listening to Tears for Fears on the way back from a family Christmas get together. I think it was like 2 days after Christmas. So I'm driving up Highway 181, which is it's just this curvy road straight up the mountain. It is the worst way to get to the Charlotte airport, which, by the way, is 2.5 hours from me. So, like, I'm out there. I hadn't seen any other cars, and it's in like an hour drive from where I was going to where I was getting. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of freaked out because I'm like, what, 22? And I'm like, I'm just going to pull over at the Brown Mountain Lights overlook. And I'm like, if I see something, like, that's going to be the end of me. But it would be pretty cool. So I pull over, and it's, it's not a very deep parking lot. And I'm looking out over the gorge. And it wasn't a drone, and it wasn't an aircraft. And I don't know what I saw, but I saw little yellow lights out over the horizon. And I've always believed in UFOs. Even I was very little during the big X-Files boom in the 90s, but I was convinced that I was going to get abducted one day. I watched a ton of Unsolved Mysteries. So I saw the Brown Mountain Lights. And some people don't think that they're real. Some people think that they're swamp gas. They don't show up every night. They don't show up very often. And kind of like how Dali was saying about how his stuff didn't show up until later in the history books. Jules Verne actually wrote a book. I can't remember the name of it, but about a mad scientist having spaceships in Table Rock Mountain, which is the mountain that you can see from the overview. And some people think that the lights, the legends, originated after that book, but they're real and they're there. And I didn't prepare as well as I was going to because I've been sick for 3 days. But that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I've seen a UFO. One of the lucky few. If you want to ever go, you can go up there. You can go to Wiseman's View. That's the better place to see them, but you better have 4-wheel drive. And don't go looking in other people's cars.
Okay.
Because that Wiseman's View is the debaucherous place. But then if you go to the actual Brown Mountain Lights overlook, it's usually no one's there.
It's make out point.
Yeah, for real.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's JJ's turn.
It is JJ's turn.
JJ, tell us a story.
I've got a different kind of cryptid, so to speak. It's real low-hanging fruit to go at to talk about. It's like, well, local cryptids, Washington State. It's obviously Bigfoot, right?
Is it Bigfoot?
It is not Bigfoot. I think there's something much more hyper-local to my city in particular. That it's interesting. The conclusion I get to in this one's interesting because, okay, I need to take you. You need to go back a little bit. You need to go back to 1940. All right. Cold November 1940. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and you need to get to Gig Harbor. About a year ago, in 1939 or so, this would have involved quite a trek and a ferry. But now there's a new way to get across the Narrows, and I'm going to share something right here. We're gonna share this. Because on this cold day.
Let me put out the campfire.
On this cold, is it even playing? Oh, there we go. On this cold day in 1940, you're gonna hear metal creaking and concrete snapping and flowing like it's paper mache. The original Tacoma Narrows Bridge goes down. Boy, does it. This was a significant event in Tacoma history. And the bridge had only been open for less than a year at this point. Luckily, nobody got killed except for one three-legged dog named Tubby. They tried to
You're
save the
making that
dog.
up.
No, I'm 100% serious.
Poor guy.
Yeah, they tried to get the dog, but you can see the way this bridge is going. It was nicknamed Galloping Gertie for this very reason. They tried everything to
Wow.
stop it from doing this, and it just kept doing it. And to some local legend for your neck of the woods, Dali, the pressure system that caused this wind, these were 40-mile-an-hour winds that was
Oh
causing
my
this.
goodness. That's it.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
the same pressure system that would end up being the Armistice Day blizzard,
Oh.
which I know that there's in like the lakes around your area got hit with it pretty hard, and so like direct connection here. Now, if you asked somebody what actually, because this is steel and concrete with a modern American ingenuity, what could possibly bring down this bridge like this, and just untested engineering and high winds being the answer is too simple sometimes. Some people will tell you that they saw arms come out of the sound, reach up and grab the bridge and tear it down. Obviously, there's video, so we know that's not true. However, in the decades prior to this, you have local tribes with artwork, and I can close this out now. We can get rid of that. There's plenty of artwork. There's plenty of vocal discussions about what's living in sound, in particular the Narrows. You have divers and boats that are out there that tell stories of the devilfish. And it's something that it could shapeshift. It could it could fit into cracks smaller than like you could possibly imagine. It's huge. Some people are like up to like 700 pounds, 60 feet, just terrifying stories of these things. When the divers were building the bridge, back in the day, the divers was a big bell suit, with you have an obscure thing, but they would see it when they were down there, and there's no frame of reference for anything. It's like this is a giant thing that can transform, like, and turn into things. Like, this is crazy. Now, what we do know is that this was actually the Pacific Northwest giant octopus, a very real thing. But prior to this, prior to even like Jacques Cousteau, like ended up doing a special about it at one point. But prior to this, there was kind of nobody really knew what an octopus was. It was like, especially what they would do, how their temperament was. But once you kind of figured out what octopuses were, it kind of became a legend. How big can they get? We don't know. But there were always stories, and it turns out that the stories were real because octopuses are gigantic, and especially left unattended, they can get absolutely massive. They do transform. I mean, these guys they can change color, they can change shape, they can squeeze into small spaces, and they're typically timid. But like, if one gets a hold of you, that's got to be the scariest feeling in the world, especially when you're
mean.
They can be mean, especially if you're encroaching on their territory. So it's a cryptid that ended up being real. However, there still is a bit of a cryptidness to it, because after that bridge went down, they didn't they tried to salvage as much as they could, because especially it's World War II, and we need whatever resources we can get our hands on. And that's a lot of steel that's down there, But they did the best they could. They couldn't get a lot, and even to this day, it has been claimed by the sea. It is a man-made reef at this point.
Oh wow!
And you really can't go down there. And the legend goes that And absolutely, the largest octopus to ever exist lives down there. Nobody's ever seen it. Some people claim to have seen it. It's one of those things where this could very, very real, but at the same time, it's kind of ridiculous to think of something that's that's why the hockey team is the Kraken, because we have these giant octopuses. It's the same concept. Like there's a Kraken living in the sound in the Narrows.
How deep is?
Natural... I don't know the exact depth of it, but I mean, it's you're not getting down there easy. Yeah. And giant octopuses do come down there. There used to be competitions like in the 30s and 40s where people would go down. You would go down, you would wrestle an octopus and bring it back to shore. Like, and it's octopus wrestling. It was a thing here. It's obviously
that
not
sounds
a thing anymore.
mean.
It is. We used to be really mean to animals. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting to have
cool.
Like a cryptid that could still theoretically, there's still like, even though it's a solved thing, there's still the threat and fear that you don't go down there. You do not go to the old Narrows Bridge wreckage site, because first of all, it's a reef. You're not supposed to go down there anyways, but it's a good story to keep people away. Like, there is an octopus so big that it is like Cthulhu. You will go mad
for a long time too.
They do too, and they're
100 years plus.
100 years, yeah, and they're smart and nimble. I can only imagine what an actual giant octopus with like something that's like fear-inducing, bigger than a barge kind of thing,
I've read a book. I forget what it was called, but it was about these giant squids that just like went nuts and started taking down ships. It was fiction, but like it was like plausible fiction.
Yeah,
it's not good.
No, and that's part of the lore that goes behind the giant octopuses. Before we kind of understood what a giant octopus was, is that they were taking down boats, small boats, but boats nonetheless. And when you can't explain that, and then you come to shore and explain, no, you're like, no, it was this really messed up fish. It transformed and it sunk my ship. I barely got out of there. It grabbed my leg. You're going to a sanatorium.
But like, imagine describing like a giraffe if no one's seen a giraffe.
Exactly. Well, you see all those old taxidermy, like from like turn of the century taxidermy, and it's all like the most messed up, like, zebra you've ever seen in your life. It's like, what's
right?
Yeah. So.
I really liked that one, JJ.
Great job, Jay. I'm spooked.
Because this is the real thing that can really kill you if you can't.
Well, I'm definitely going to have
people don't recreationally dive down there at all.
Not really. I mean, there's still fishing and stuff. You can still it's recreation under the bridge still, but like you don't see a lot of divers, especially in that area directly under the bridge. It's frowned upon too. So I don't know if and it could very well be illegal. I don't know, because it could be a protected site. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I would assume it's a protected site.
Very cool. Nice spooky stories, friends.
Yeah, from coast to coast.
From coast to coast. Well,
coast to coast AM.
Yes, there you go. Well, this was a good fun time. It looks like the campfire is dying down a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna get myself some. I'm gonna get my sweater on. I'm gonna head inside the house here from being outside this whole time. But I definitely enjoy hanging and talking about these spooky things. That was a lot of fun.
We should do it again.
Maybe it won't take 5 years to do
it. Let's say 5 years. Like, I think we did it pre-pandemic, maybe?
It was 2020.
Okay. So,
oh, my God.
Yeah. With that, JJ, Tessa, thank you for sitting around the campfire. Thank you to everybody who snuck up on us in the forest.
In the woods.
Here.
Yeah, it was
in
Blair
the
Witch
woods.
Out here.
We hope we didn't scare you too much. Maybe you learned a little something from each of our stories. Maybe we'll see you on the next episode one day as well of A Dark Figure Ahead. You can find us at SideQuesting.com, SideQuesting TV. on the YouTube and Twitch. And it's all good. Boo! Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.